All right, good morning, everyone. I'm Mark Valentine. I apologize, there's not a real live FEMA person standing in front of you. They have budget cuts as well. I have been living with FEMA in the wild now for the last couple of years, so I was also on a couple of teams that was working on the updated NRF, so hopefully I will be able to get through this for you. We're going to talk about the National Response Framework, I'll call it the NRF from now on, in the context of Presidential Policy Directive 8. So that's what we're going to do. But first, I have pre-test. All right, I know we have a lot of disc experts out here, so we're going to go through a quick pre-test. Who in this picture was in charge of the response for Hurricane Sandy? Come on, throw a rock. We have the President of the United States up top, Secretary of Homeland Security, the Administrator of FEMA, Secretary of Defense. Who thinks it was the guy on top? All right, I've got a couple hands. Come on. Commit yourself to something. Secretary of DHS? Any hands? The Administrator of FEMA? All right, more hands. Secretary of Defense? Any? All right. Well, what if you were one of these people? Do you think those folks were in charge on the left side? We have Governor Christie on the left, Governor Cuomo on the right. Who thinks they were in charge? All right, more hands. This is good. What if you're this guy, this lady, the Mayor of New York, Mayor of Hoboken? Who do they think is in charge of the response? Okay, more hands going up. This is good. What if you're one of these guys who's in charge? General Dempsey, General Jacoby, General Grass, General Caldwell. Everyone probably recognizes him. Are they in charge? All right, this is a good group. You guys understand what's going on. All right, the bottom line is the answer depends on who you are. Okay? If your boss is General Dempsey, General Dempsey's in charge. Okay? If your boss is General Caldwell, General Caldwell's in charge. So the bottom line is, depending on who you are, all of those people are in charge, or none of them. And I think that's what the NRF is trying to do. So, if anyone or no one is in charge, how do we accomplish something meaningful? That is why we have the National Response Framework. That is why it exists. Okay? The bottom line, if you don't listen to anything else I say for the rest of this 20 minutes, unity of effort for common objectives. So the entire NRF is designed to do that. To get all those people from those slides working together on a common set of objectives. Hey Stan, how's it going? So these are just the points here. The bottom line is that the NRF describes the basic principles, roles and responsibilities, and the coordinating structure. So it is the big picture on the who, does what, and how. All right, moving on. All right, so these are some of the FEMA slides. Presidential Policy Directive 8 was signed on 30 March 2011. The administration decided that, you know what, we've spent a lot of time focusing on the response. We were responding to something. Wouldn't it be great if we took the same level of effort and applied that to planning and being prepared, trying to prevent something from happening? We can't do that, protecting from it. We can't do that, then we'll respond to recover, and then finally mitigate so that the next time it happens, we're not in such bad shape. So that was the goal of PPD8. It started with a national preparedness goal. And I'll read that to you in a minute. And the means to achieve it was this national preparedness system, and then the national planning frameworks. You notice I said frameworks. We're all familiar with the fact there is a NRF, the National Response Framework. There are now 5 frameworks to cover all of the mission areas. All right, so that is the national preparedness goal. You can read the blue container up there. But the bottom line it says is we want to be ready as a whole of community, which means everyone. And I don't know if everyone picked up on it, but FEMA changed the vernacular very suddenly a couple of years ago, and they stopped calling people victims. They started calling them survivors. And this was on purpose. It was very deliberately chosen, that term. And the goal is eventually to change that term, survivor, into responder. Because everyone is in charge. Okay, so I'm not going to read the rest of that. You've done that. Let's move on. So, here is the what. Okay, we talked a little bit about the who, and the NRF describes that from the federal level down to the local level. I should say down to, across to the local level. And here are the what those people do. And it's called core capabilities. And everyone's looking at this going, uh-oh, where are the emergency support functions? Where are the ESS? We'll get to that in a minute. The big thing to note on this slide is that across all 5 mission areas, from prevention all the way to recovery, there are 3 core capabilities that are in common. Okay? Planning, public information warning, and then finally operational coordination. So all 5 frameworks are going to share those core capabilities. And again, those core capabilities are what we do. Those are the things that, from the local level to the federal government level, we package out. And if you go through the response area, now you see the critical transportation, environmental, safety, et cetera, all the way down to situational assessment. So those are the things that we do. All right, 5 national frameworks. I've already talked about those real quick. And a way to think about this is the old NRF is 130-something pages. DCO's correct me if I'm wrong there, but it's about that. And the old NRF, 2008, which, oh, by the way, is the one that's currently on the books, is designed to be kind of a doctrine document, best practices, general ways to do things, but it also gets very specific into coordinating structures, details about individuals and what they do, so much so that it talks about the Secretary of Defense's role, NORTHCOM, the National Guard Bureau, etc. The new NRF is raised an echelon, if you want to think about it that way. It is now only about 35 pages, and it is very broad in nature. It is designed to be supplemented. It's really designed just to give the broad scope about how we are organized to respond. And then it's designed to be supplemented by several annexes. Those would be the emergency support function annexes, incident-specific annexes, and then finally, there will be a federal interagency operations plan for each of those missionaries. So for instance, FIOP response is designed to be the more operational component of the new NRF. All right, we've already talked about that. And again, the important thing here is flexible, scalable, and adaptable. All right, when we started this whole thing, hey, how are we going to redo the NRF? We want to make it consistent with HSPD 5, the upcoming guidance in PPD 8, and also we want to keep the good stuff from the old NRF. So you're not going to see huge changes, not sweeping, but there are some. It does reinforce NIMS as the National Incident Management System as the baseline for the NRF. All right, that was the process. A lot of people were involved, and we listened a lot. And here are the changes, the big picture stuff. So obviously it's higher in echelon, much shorter document, about 35 pages. And there's a link that I'll give you at the end of this brief so you can actually go look at it. It re-emphasizes the term whole community. Now, the use of the word whole community is consistent with how it was placed in the 2008 NRF, but it goes a long way and talks about whole community. And just as an example, it starts talking about the individual actors in the system, and it starts with the localities. Okay, the Department of Defense is not mentioned until we're the last part of this tiered response. Okay, the emergency support functions. I told you I would get back to that. The document describes core capabilities. The old NRF talked mostly about ESS, or emergency support functions. The new one talks core capabilities. So what's the difference there? This really frightened a lot of people when this was coming out, especially emergency support function leads who were like, whoa, this is not good. I'm losing something here. And the answer is that's not true. Okay, the emergency support functions are still the way we coordinate those core capabilities, and the emergency support functions are the groups that generate and deliver those core capabilities. And I've already talked about the FIOP. A couple more changes here. The emergency support function annexes have been updated. And oh, by the way, the ESF-14 is gone. No longer exists. That's the long-term community recovery ESF. And that is now rolled into the National Disaster Recovery Framework. They have their own framework. And public information or public affairs support annex is gone. That's now rolled up into the ESF-15 or external affairs. Okay, these things remain the same. And the only points I want to make are tiered response, okay, and scale. So this can be executed at the local level, okay? It can be executed at the local and state level, local, state, federal, it should span the type of incident, okay? And then finally, that's what I talked about earlier, unified effort. Okay? Again, the entire goal of the NRF is to make sure we're all working on a common set of objectives for a common goal. And I've gotten into a couple of debates with folks. Notice up there it talks about the NRF and authorities. And a lot of folks were nervous, primarily ESF coordinators, when the document was under revision. And I heard this statement several times. Well, we can't change the NRF because that's where I get my authorities. I'm like, that is not right. If you want to argue and say that the NRF is a good place and lists the authorities you have, that's fine. You really derive your authorities from public law. Okay? Congress gives you your authorities. All right. That's all